I honest to God did not want to make this, but unfortunately, assumptions and bad judgment has led me to make this. There's also other things I'd like to discuss. As with my Silent Hill 2 remake video, I was making that in a point of time where I was just quite frankly angry, and this is unfortunately no better. The only difference is that it's hot as hell right now, and I'm sweating my balls off, so the AC is going to be on for this one. You have to forgive me, but as a wise Roach once said, there's nothing I can do. Now, with all the humor out of the window, let's go into some serious talks. The first thing I want to mention is Fortnite in general. And yes, there actually is some logic to my madness, as they say. I honestly don't like the game. I think it's a piece of shit. It's one of Epic's worst games that's unfortunately successful. Playing Gears of War would be a better use of my time, and I honestly find Gears of War insanely boring. And as with the success of games like that, a lot of games followed in its footsteps. Brown, gray, and realistic, third-person, over-the-shoulder, cover-based shooting with X Factor. I fucking hate it. Let me just stop before I turn this into a Gears hater video. You could see this as a Fortnite hater video, but I just want to lay the groundwork of this when I say that I highly detest Fortnite. But if people I know who are into it, then I can be willing to make conversations about it without downplaying them for simply liking the fucking thing. I know there's a lot of slop out there nowadays, but unfortunately part of people's problems is that they cannot just accept other people's opinions. Or at the very least, not outright berating them for it. There's a difference between liking something, but can accept its criticisms and letting people civilly discourse over it. And there's another to just blindly praising the game, admitting the zero faults, giving it 10s out of 10s, and crucifying any heretic who dares speaks ill of your precious cow. And honestly, a lot of people tend to fall into the latter, unfortunately, because what the hell is actual criticism that isn't just met with, you're bad, so the game sucks? Even if you watch the person making a video that's at least an hour long or more, like a feature-length Marvel's Mega Cut version, you could still find someone who just makes the assumption that they're just bad at the game or that they make some of the dumbest arguments. I have had my fair share of actually seeing people who did make such videos, but ultimately they either did not focus on the real issues or it was a nothing burger. And I honestly do not like to think that the rants that I've made, even the few video logs which now have their own playlists by the way, which I wouldn't consider them rants, but just more or less discussions and or just me talking about something, but without it explicitly being a rant per se, unless stated otherwise. The nostalgia pattern is also another thing, but I'll save that for another time. There's a reason why I choose not to do certain rants, because either I have no interest in the topic, or that I cannot add anything into said topic. And unfortunately, I do have something to add with this, and it's why it's getting its own feature-length rant. I don't even really care for the fact that it is a free-to-play game, so it being an online game is somewhat acceptable, but I just don't like the core gameplay, period. The third-person gameplay, I don't really have an issue with, but the fact that they're basically using the same gunplay in a setting that's basically restricted to Battle Royale is honestly tiring. It's like when people look at something like Overwatch or Apex Legends or even Team Fortress 2 that's basically just having some of the best types of gunplay but is restricted to either team-based combat or Battle Royale, and it's kind of disgusting personally. It's why people actually wanted something like Overwatch 2 to have an actual PvE mode or some sort of campaign that gives the single player merit worth a damn, but we're not going to get any of that anytime soon, and yet people still defend it because Blizzard made it, and they made games good enough back in the 90s, I guess, so they're perfectly capable developers now, even though they may as well be Blizzard in name only. So, Bino for short. Like, non-binary. But even with the third-person gameplay that Fortnite has, and as of this recording, the fact that it has vehicular combat, which is seemingly interesting, except I played literally any other game that has most if not all these features, and they're infinitely better even without said features. Something like the Groove Bomb, Ratchet and Clank, and it's called the Groovatron. And it's actually a really annoying trophy in the 2016 reboot, which I hate. You have Vehicular Combat, Twisted Metal, Vigilante 8. There might be some other games in there that I'm missing, but you get the idea. There's also Roadkill, which is also a pretty underrated game. Basically taking the classic GTA sandbox with the Twisted Metal nature. You don't really get games like that anymore, but I'll digress. And then, of course, the biggest one, the third-person combat gameplay. There's so many fucking games that use this perspective, it's not even funny. The main one I like to use as a comparison is, don't laugh, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. Not Future Soldier, Wildlands. Because with Wildlands, you can do a lot of cool shit in there, and I know people crap on the game because it's Ubisoft or it's another Tom Clancy game, whatever, but if I enjoy the game, I should be able to enjoy the game. And if I don't like the game, and there's things that annoy me, I'm going to fucking complain about them. Not to say that Wildlands is perfect, but you can play it offline in a seemingly decent nature without having to be worried about the microtransactions, and the fact that the sequel took away all the good stuff about it. Yeah, it can stay in the corner for all I care. All the cool stuff you could probably do in Fortnite, you could probably do in almost any other game that you've probably played in existence. But unfortunately, with like 99.9% of the player base who probably plays this game, you could literally show them anything else that's just as interesting, and they won't care, or that they'll have thumbs up their ass because they don't know what to do. But the moment they touch Fortnite, it's just immediately familiar to them, which is absurd. And yes, I know Epic did add in something like Creative Mode, which is basically sold from Little Big Planet. Or they added in all the various IPs and shit, like in Super Smash Bros. With about the Boys Club mentality bullshit going on. And even so much as outright ripping off certain designs, I think you just put two and two together, honestly. And if it's not that blatantly fucking obvious, there you go. I'll digress on that one, though, because it's, a lot of people tend to over-sexualize the fuck out of such things, but that's neither here or there. The point is that Epic is not exactly revolutionary like they used to be. I just don't like the fucking game. When I was streaming GTA Online, back when I had another regular who unfortunately ended up being a degenerate, and I'm not going to really get into that because it's quite frankly old news at this point, I had then attracted a seemingly regular who unfortunately also had beef with this degenerate, but with this other individual, which I'm going to refer as Titan because that is actually one of the nicknames they go by. Me and Titan were able to agree to disagree on modern Doom, i.e. Doom Eternal. And to those who don't know, I fucking hate Doom Eternal, but Titan was okay with that. And that my live stream ramblings were entertaining as they were reminded of a certain individual known as Cyrax. No, not that Cyrax. Forget it. I'll drop the joke on that. It's not even worth it. But I'm not going to really go into the whole scenario with the degenerate because most of it is just, quite frankly, transphobia bullshit. And this, unfortunately, led to a lot of issues that were taken out of massive proportion because of one bait post that I had seemingly fallen for and other shit that just does not need to be recited. And of course, me being the dumbass, falling for things. I too have unfortunately fallen for such things, and I'm not going to say what I did was acceptable or that I should be proud of, but safe to say I didn't learn from my mistakes, and unfortunately there's just some things that I have to start learning, and that I really need to stay in my own fucking bubble. And that I shouldn't go prying in other people's business because it's not even worth it. Especially when it costed me, even if I self-willingly left the community that Titan wanted me to be a part of, which I was at first reluctant to agree because I know some of these things would not go well, and unfortunately my theory has ended up correct. But because there were some things that I'm not going to go into specific details about that were recurring, I was given the opportunity to join a Discord server, which was basically a Fortnite creative group with some of Titan's other friends, which they were okay. I'll be honest, they were actually pretty okay. It's a relatively small group now, but the time that I was there, it was okay. Did a couple voice chat sessions, had some laughs, tried to have some fun, maybe talk about some things, and just doing the things that people usually do in Discord, which I know Titan was part of mine at some point, but left, which can't really blame them because it's basically a fucking desert now. Not that it really matters, but... Then the Xbox Showcase was announced, and one of the games that was announced was Doom: The Dark Ages, which, knowing how much Titan is a big fan of it, I had to open my big mouth and mention that I'm not really the biggest fan of Doom: The Dark Ages, and if I were to pretend otherwise, I'd come off as a fucking hypocrite. Now, the difference between most people in this scenario is that others would simply berate you for liking the thing that you're into, which is only really acceptable if they're a blatant fanboy, and I don't consider Titan to be in that league. They're just a person who happens to really like modern Doom, and I can respect that because they can respect me not liking it. Even though I've been roasted for liking Doom 3 and comparing it to Alien Isolation. I'll consider a roast since I'm seemingly going to take it as just a way to kind of poke fun at me for liking the slower paced game, but then there's a certain individual, who I'm not going to mention, who wanted to take the opportunity to get mad at me every time I talked about anything in there that wasn't exactly to their liking, which, I'll be honest, it's not the first time something like that's happened, and anyone knowing me, I tend to go on a lot of ranting. But usually when it's just me expressing generally that I'm not the biggest fan of X, Y, or Z, it's not always intended to start some shit. And unfortunately, it has also lost relations with the likes of a Darkchild or a Rose by any other Viper. And the fact that I actually uttered that makes me want to fucking vomit for the bullshit that I had dealt with in that timeline. But, oh well. I guess sometimes friendship isn't exactly as sincere as it is, especially when one wants to argue about Elden Ring or Silent Hill 2 or anything of the sort, or legit trying to bring up some bullshit, but it's not the time or place for that. This specific individual did not like the fact that I would bring up that I didn't like something like Doom, even though I even tried to have conversations about it, like saying that hopefully the seemingly on-rails segment wouldn't just be on rails, because a lot of games try to do that third-person vehicular combat thing only for it to be a complete fucking joke. Looking at you, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, and specifically enough, Battlefield 3, which one was supposed to be the big epic climax, and the other one was supposed to be the first time that Battlefield players got to use the jet, something that can fly around freely in multiplayer, but in the single player, it's just a glorified fucking rail shooter. Like, if I want to play fucking Top Gun in NES, I'll play Top Gun in NES. I've said it before and I'm gonna say it again. At least Bad Company 1, despite having the one level where you get to use the fucking helicopter, it wasn't some downplayed watered crap. You actually got to use the fucking thing, and it was fucking sweet. But let's just continue. Not even a week, I believe, after the showcase came up, basically whenever I made comments about something, especially with Titan adding a Fortnite bot that basically mentions the news and stuff about Fortnite, I would usually make a comment or there about me not liking something, particularly with the one that kind of really started it all, is LEGO Worlds, which is the footage you're seeing right now, because I've actually wanted to play this game, believe it or not. And yeah, I know there was an early access build on Steam quite a while ago, and it finally got a international release or whatever the hell you want to call it in 2017. So while technically not a new edition compared to Fortnite, it is still technically a newer game per se. Maybe 5 years old at this point, so I consider it a relatively newer game. And it's something I actually wanted to play. Problem is that it's $30, and I think it's a little bit steep for a game whose progression is literally random based, and that it's kind of one of those games where you just kind of have to figure out what the hell you have to do. It's good to mess around in, but for a game like that for $30 or whatever it was sold for in stores, I don't think it's worth it. This apparently broke the person in two, like that one episode of SpongeBob, and it's just funny to me that people legitimately get triggered over gaming opinions, which isn't even anything to do with the fact that I'm not berating anyone in particular. It's just, I think LEGO Worlds is better. And yes, I've seen LEGO Fortnite, and it's just basically Minecraft, but with LEGO. Big fucking whoop. I don't even like Minecraft anyway, but whatever. And this led into a pretty big argument in general chat, and I even tried to apologize for such things, because I didn't feel it was right of me to start some shit, even though it was just a general LEGO Worlds is better. Then this person basically got tired of me being a negative hater. And I just also want to make something clear. The Discord server knew I have this channel, and to anyone who's actually watching this far, if you actually took the fucking time to watch the stuff that I put out, whether it be live streams or videos or posts, whether even posts on the XCOM, you honestly cannot tell others to not assume things, but then you do the exact same thing yourself. And just because I happen to say LEGO Worlds is better, does not mean that I'm posting it like I'm some Redditor who just so happens to get pissy over opinions. I prefer LEGO Worlds to LEGO Fortnite. It's nothing more than that. And even if I'm negative towards Doom Dark Ages, I'd like to at least be able to have conversations that might make the game better for other people's sake, because I'm not a selfish asshole. So then I made basically one last stand saying that if I'm not going to be accepted over gaming opinions, then I'll just take my leave, because I quite frankly do not want to deal with the already ongoing arc that's present at that time, even before I knew of the other stuff, which I'm going to officially call the International Agency versus Attack on Titan. And no, it's not the supermarket, and it's not based on the really shitty anime. Just two people are supposed having a falling out, and I'm not going to really get into it, and the other situation with that, with the voice chat, is just, it's just something. But it turns out the person who I mentioned earlier just doesn't straight up like me. The times that I spent with you, I just don't like you. It's like the episode of Recess where TJ Detwater tries to become friendly with someone, and they just have an excuse or whatever to just not like him. So I just left. And I know I said I tried to join because I want to help a friend out. But what kind of bullshit does one have to put up with if someone's just saying that this game is better, and then being responded with, you must hate everything that's new, as if I'm hate everything or something, or that I'm an old person who doesn't like anything new, which is just, quite frankly, disingenuous, but others want to make the exact same argument when I'm actually presenting real criticism and can't think of anything else. I don't want to say trapped into joining this server, because I don't regret it. I do regret that I have to leave because one person ruined it for me. It is why I'm just going to stay in my safe haven, because I don't want to deal with people getting mad at fucking video game opinions like it's abortion, religion, or sexual preference. It's just not worth it. I shouldn't have to tape my mouth with red tape because I don't like a certain game, or that I like this game more than others, as if I'm going to speak about how I feel about religion, or sex, or anything. It's fucking retarded, dude. It's just a simple opinion. I know an opinion can be wrong, but it's over video games, dude. I know someone's going to be like, oh, well, you're getting triggered over video games, aren't you? Well, just to be like arguing over colors, or color, if you're from the UK. Oh, you like blue better than red? You're a piece of shit. Oh, well, you like white better than black? You're a fucking white supremacist. You see how fucking crazy that shit sounds? It's exactly the bullshit that you have to deal with certain people. And I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be a part of that shit. Especially over video game opinions. And ones that people can't even accept, first of all. I know some people really take that criticism really far, because some people want to go on full autism and retardism, which, in case you're wondering if you saw that, it's kind of low-key sneak dissing, because that's when that shit happened, by the way. But I have reasons not to play something, kind of like Elden Ring. So if you can't respect that, then I don't want you here. But if you're willing to actually engage with the person while playing the game, or just having conversations that isn't just entirely toxic, you can say as much as you like. Mr. Machiavelli gets it. Lead by his example.